They call me baritone. That's what I thought he said. That's what our leader called me. It's baritone, whatever you want to call it. And, well, we feel talk about marriage. How many of y'all the singles, do y'all desire to be married? No?
Not right now.
Yeah, not right now.
Later in life, yeah.
Okay. Desiree, you desire to be married? No.
Wait a minute. You young. Why you say it like that?
Yeah.
Because right now I'm trying to work on me. I'm trying to be the best that I can be.
Okay.
And I don't want no kind of hindrance.
I
don't want nothing to hold me back.
That's right.
So if God gonna send me somebody, he gotta be somebody like Abraham, somebody great. You know, and I gotta get myself good enough to deserve somebody like that. So right now I'm just trying to work on me.
So when you say you have to get yourself good enough, what do you mean by that, good enough?
By that I just mean I need to continue to seek God, and if God wants me to have somebody, it'll happen. But right now I just need to work on me. Like, you know, I just want to get myself good for God.
Okay.
You know, that's
y'all talk. I like
No, but see, my thing is, you know what? You can never get yourself good enough. And I'm gonna say, you saying that when God gives you somebody, it's gonna be the right person that's gonna fit you in every way, and it's gonna y'all gonna come like a mold.
Right.
And y'all gonna be shaped together, and that whatever God got for you to do, He's gonna help you. He's gonna be there, your support.
Right.
And you're gonna be His support. And I understand you're young, so I tell my daughter, she's 25, the youngest one. You ain't ready to get married. You know, seek after the things of God. Please God, let Him be your center. Because when God is your center, everything else falls into place. Even when it's time for marriage, it falls into place. But, you know, don't always say, I got to get myself. You'll never get yourself good enough, because you'll never think that I'm at the place that I need to, because you're constantly growing. I'm 50 and I'm still growing. Yes. Not in height, but I'm growing in spiritually. But and I've been married 31, this year will be 31 years, and we still learning each other and still growing with each other, even in the natural as well as in the spiritual.
Right.
So it's always a learning process in life, no matter what stage you're in.
But I think that what Ms. Desiree is trying to say is, you know, like how the Bible say, you know, if you don't have one, don't seek one. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
I mean, because to me, that's the best place to be in, because a lot of times, you know, when a young lady grows up, you know, I'm just speaking for myself, my own personal experience, my friends, you know, like you want a husband. You know, you want that nice shiny woman. You know, you want that one that's got everything you want. But I mean, when you had that mind and like that's what you're seeking after, sometimes you might make a mistake.
Yeah, don't seek after that. You seek after seek to please God, and all of that falls into place. I don't even teach my daughters, because growing up, you always been taught you get grown, you want to get married. That's not always. You can learn how. You don't need a man to validate you to do what you got to do.
Right.
You grow up to be something great in yourself.
Yes, ma'am. But some of us had to learn it.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
but
like
the Bible said that a man that findeth a woman. It's a wife. It didn't say anything about a woman looking for a man. It said a man that findeth a wife. And see, that's where I made my mistake. That's because I can sit here and talk, because I made my mistake. My first husband, I went and got him, because that's what I wanted. But we stayed married over 20 years on paper, but we weren't together in the same house. Because I went and got him. I didn't do what the Word of God said. I didn't let God send me the man that He had for me. And that's why, you know, we make our mistakes. And I understand what you're saying about wanting to be good enough, because I always thought I was never good enough for nothing. Nothing I did was good enough for. Nothing I said was right. But I was always condemning myself. It wasn't the world condemning me or anybody else. It was me. I could never satisfy me. But until I got into the Word of God, then I realized that I'm not trying to satisfy me. I need to be trying to satisfy God. And if I satisfy God, if I become a sweet smell in His nostrils, I got it going on.
What you gonna say, Ms. Kim?
I was gonna ask a question. How do you know that God sent you that man?
Because God is going to let you know. He's going to speak. God's going to speak to you and let you know that this is the one. If you listen to him, a lot of times God talks to us, and because it's not what we want or what we think it should be, we override what God is saying. But when that right man comes, when the one that God sends to you, you going to know because God's going to let you know.
Now, let me ask you this. So you saying that, okay, would the one that God sent me be, okay, like I'm just saying from what you just said, like sometimes, God tell us stuff and, it might not be what we want to hear. Would there be a time when God sent me one that I don't quite like? Is that what you're saying? Could that happen? Oh,
Because let me explain to you why I'm saying that. Because let me explain to you why I'm saying that.
Yes, ma'am.
Because my second husband, I couldn't stand him. I told the deacons of the church, y'all need to talk to that little boy because that little boy don't know me. When he told me God told him that I was his wife, I told him, I said, you lied on God. You need to go back and hear him again.
Okay, so let me just say this. Me personally, okay, like I just can't believe that God would put me in that situation. Because like I believe that the way God sent me a husband is that God make me good. He make the way I judge things good, and then I'm able to choose one that's good for me. You know what I'm saying? Because in this society, in this society, it's not like like back when the Jews. Because like the fathers chose one for them. Right. But in our society, we go out, we are the ones we see. And it's like, I believe that God made me good, so I was able to choose a good one. And that's how God chose them for me.
Now, I think we get that kind of confused because I'll put it like this. When I had an idea of what I wanted in a man.
Right.
And how I wanted my husband to be. Mm-hmm. And he had to be like this, he had to look like this, he had to do all this. Actually, the person that came into my life was nothing that I thought I wanted, in a sense. Mm-hmm. But he ended up, I'm talking about, because I'll put it like this. My preference is, I like tall, light-skinned dudes. Right. That was my preference. Mm-hmm. My husband, he's taller than me, but he's dark-skinned. Mm-hmm. But he was a man that was so sweet, and he treated me wonderful. So some things you can learn to overlook, and I knew God gave him to me.
Okay, let me talk. That's one of my points that I want to hit.
Yeah.
First of all, when you choose a spouse, especially when we become adults, it's much more than the physical. I mean, when you become an adult, you get beyond the physical, what they look like, this and that.
That's right.
And I'm not saying, I don't even. But for me personally, I don't think I would have chose one that wasn't attractive.
Right.
That's just not realistic. You want one that's attractive to you, and whatever attractive to you is, that's what it is. And like one thing that was taught to me was you make your list of 10. Whatever you want your husband to be. And if you're a wise person, of course you're gonna put, you would think that you would want them to be spiritual. You would think that you would want them to have a job, because you don't want to marry nobody without no job.
Have a job.
You want them to be able to handle responsibilities, make good judgments, all these different things. And on my list of 10, handsome was on there. Tall was on my list of 10. But guess what? The other part of that was my pastor told me, okay, on your list of 10, the first 5 you can't live without.
Right.
So handsome was at the bottom. Mm-hmm. Handsome was at the bottom. Handsome may have been 9 or 10, but spiritual. First of all, going to my church, because for me personally, I don't want nobody that's not in the same doctrine as I am, because it's gonna be that's unnecessary conflict for me. Right. That's number one. And then number 2, he had to, have a job, and be able to handle responsibilities, and one that I admired, one that I thought was well, and all those different things. And that's. To me, that's the way that I chose my husband. And we still have difficulties. We still have arguments, because that's just a part of life.
Yes.
And one other thing that I want to say, this was the tall tale. If you see something that young man is doing, or that young lady may be doing, you don't ignore it. Let's just take something that's small. Like if they always leave their car dirty, right. Okay, because. To me, you don't overlook stuff like that. Because if you feel like, that might bother you, you address that right away.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? And like the way that, like KB and I, there were things that I was like, I don't know if I can deal with that one. But, you know, he and I talked about it, and then the best part of all, we went to our leader. We talked with our leader about everything that bothered us about each other before we even got started.
Right.
And I know that's because, like I said, some things that have happened in our marriage, we only been married not even 2 years yet, but some stuff that has happened in our marriage, even to these 2 years, have been rough on me. I mean, very, 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 very painful, very disappointing, but our foundation was so great. I mean, before we even got started, our foundation was so great. I mean, ain't nowhere in the world we would have slept together. Wasn't even. I thank God wasn't even an issue because both of us had the mind rather than sleep together, we'd rather die. I mean, because that's just how strongly we are about it. Living together, all that other kind of stuff. We were built in the doctrine before we even started dating.
Right.
And so that's why I thank God for that because our foundation is deep, and I know that's what keeps us during the rough times.
Right.
Has to.
And I have something to say about that. I too am married. I've been married for 12 years now. And my marriage was not of God. I was not in the church. I was looking for a man. I was looking for a husband. I wanted to be married.
Right.
And I thought my husband was cute. He had a dimple. And that was not the dimple. So I mean, I said in my mind when we met, if he asked me to marry him, I'm saying yes. Because I had been out there, I had encountered so many men that I just was tired and I was ready to get married. So I got married. And a lot of things that I went through, that I'm going through in my marriage, could have been prevented if I would have took her out, if I would have been in the church, if I would have not sought for a husband. So I understand what Desiree is saying, how she wants to make sure. All she's saying is she wants to make sure.
Oh, I understand.
She wants to make sure that she's making the right decision. I don't care what man come to a person that's not married. He has to have certain qualities. He should have certain qualities, and she should be interested in those qualities.
Right.
Because of a lot of things that I went through and that I'm going through in my marriage, because it's rough right now today. Today it's rough, but I have God now.
Right.
So I will overcome them. I'm not worried about that, because if I have to fall on my face every night, which I do, fast, pray, whatever, talk to Brother Haywood, Brother Jeff every day, because I need help. But a lot of things that I'm going through right now, I wouldn't have to go through if I would have sought God, if I would have knew to seek God the way we're taught today.
Right.
So marriage, it's good and it's honorable and God ordained it, but it's serious. It's no joke.
And like Sister Angela was saying, hold on 1 second, and I know we need to go to you. It's like those things, like, and I know Angela, you can be a witness to this, because when you get married, those flaws in your spouse that kind of irk you a little bit, they didn't just pop up.
No.
Sometimes they are there before you get married.
Right.
But because you love them and you want this and that, you ignore them. And so that's why I encourage the single, because you had the best chance.
Right.
And that was one thing that helped me. I embraced being single. I loved it. It was a wonderful thing. I was free. I ain't have to answer to nobody. I came and went. Stay. When I go somewhere, hey, the only person that had the respect was my parents. Man, being single is a wonderful life. I mean, even Paul said that it's the best way. I mean, you don't have nobody that you worried about going to heaven with you. The only person you got to worry about going to heaven is yourself. Only person you got to look out for is yourself. But when you get married, man, it's like that person, you concerned about them. You can't help it.
Right.
You can't help it. That's why I encourage young people, before you get married, not young people, single people, before you get married, when you see those things, don't ignore them.
Yeah.
You gotta address them, or if you don't, I'm sorry to say, you're gonna be sorry.
Yeah.
Because it's gonna feel like it's gonna magnify, but it really didn't magnify. You just ignore it.
If you don't.
So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just was gonna ask you said like you and your husband have to be in the same body. Like, what if you date someone, they're not
outside?
Yeah.
That's your choice. For me personally, I didn't want to deal with that. I didn't want to. I didn't want to deal with somebody that was outside of my
but they believe like the same things you believe, but they might have like a different head. Like, you know, different sizes.
Like I said, it's not a problem. If
That's on her list.
huh?
Oh.
That was my list. That was my list of 10. That was number 1 on my list of 10
Okay.
in my doctrine. And you know what? Okay, like let's just say a young man, you know, if there's an opportunity for me to meet a young man, he had to convince me, and that would have had to been some great convincing. But like I said, my list of 10, that was on my top 5. I wouldn't have been able to break. I'm sorry, because it's just much too important to me.
Mhm.
Because, you know, like I know that's in my marriage now. Like that's one of the things that help us now. Because, like, you know, like I can put on him. Well, Brother Hayward wouldn't do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, like KB, you know, I don't know if that's right, but I can't see Brother Hayward doing it. And because we both honor Brother Hayward so much, you know, that help us. But if it would have been somebody outside of my doctrine, who is Brother Hayward? He don't even care about what Brother Hayward do. He don't care about nothing Brother Hayward does.
Well, yeah, I agree that when you're married, you should go to the same church. But yeah, like suppose you're dating someone and you go to different churches, then what?
I don't think, like I said, that's that individual's choice.
Okay, let me sort of address that.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
I was married 32 years. My husband passed. That's the only reason I'm free today. But I had a wonderful marriage because we were in the same church, doctrine-wise, etc. We weren't at first, but before, and you have to know beforehand these things. Am I going to be able to tolerate this? Because if you can't tolerate him being somewhere else,
That's the
and
truth.
they don't teach the same thing,
That's the truth.
you're going to have problems.
That's the
The
truth.
Bible says don't be unequally yoked together with unbelievers. Of course, that's basic. But even if they are Christians, you have to know what they believe, how they live their life. Because if you cannot tolerate it before, or it's a question mark,
Right.
you probably need to let them go or give them a choice. And then you got to be prayerful.